our prayers or our meditation. And then sometimes we forget that really the heart of it is to have a good heart, you know, to have a kind heart. For example, in the Lamrim Chemo, near the end, when it comes to the section on generating bodhicitta, it quotes a sutra and says, a bodhisattva shouldn't engage in many practice. If he engages just one practice, great compassion, all the other qualities will come. So if we concentrate, if we mainly focus on great compassion, all the rest will come. So this somehow strikes me, you know, as really important, because we have all these different practices, and then how do you unify them? What's really the core? What's really the essence? You know, what can you, how to say, one gets distracted and think, what is the things where you come back to as your 0 point, you know, as your clean slate, what you come back to. And then, so it seems that that point is compassion, you know, to have a kind heart. And I noticed in me, you know, when I make that as my main practice, then you have this warm feeling in your heart, you know, this gentleness, and you know, you're like in a cocoon of love, you know, in a bubble, you know, in a kind of love bubble. You know, when you fall in love, you're in a kind of love bubble, but this is a different one. But it's also kind of bubble where everything you see is through that love feeling, you know, that compassionate feeling. And I think we all experience that from time to time, you know. And then, and when we experience it, we say, oh yeah, that's really nice. But then somehow life has its momentum, and then we get into other states of mind, you know, we forget that. So to bring always the mind back to that, I think is, and sometimes we can get it quite easily, and other times it's very hard to get. It's almost like the heart gets dry, you know, and you don't find, you use the thought, you know, to induce the emotion, but you're not able to, you know, something happened and somehow you blocked and you cannot induce it anymore, right? And then at the other time, you know, it's very easy to generate it. So it's a very interesting thing. And also nowadays we have a lot of challenges. We often meet difficult people, or we hear about difficult people. So we have a difficult person in chief in the US, you know. So it's easy when you get news, you know, each time you hear about that person, your heart blocks, you know, or you see a situation in the news and your heart shrinks, you know, dries up. So how can we do for these things not to happen? How do you generate love and compassion in a way that even if you hear or think about a difficult person or see a difficult situation, you're not getting upset, you know? You don't shrink. So I think the first point is to see this benefit of having this warm heart. And I think we all agree that when we are in that state of loving, caring mind, you know, we feel well, you know, we feel a decent human being, you know, we feel our life is worthwhile, you know, whether it is with a child or with an elderly person, you know, or with our partner or with our colleagues, you know, if we have this warm feeling, you know, we just feel a decent person. And then also it says in terms of health, you know, if you have this warm kind heart, it induces you know, it releases some chemical in your body, and it promotes a good health, you know. Also it affects the body well, you know. And then because you're in this loving compassion state of mind, it's hard for mental affliction to take over your mind. You see, because it's the opposite energy of anger and irritation. So if you're in that mood, then even though you face difficult situation, people annoy you, but because you're in this loving, kind energy, it's hard for this negative state of mind to take root. You know? You see, when you're loving and compassionate, you're more patient. You know, you're less jealous, you're less pride. So all the mental affliction decrease because you're in that loving, compassionate mood. You know? And then, of course, whatever you think, you say, or do out of this love and compassion, you know, it's positive karma, right? It's a virtuous state of mind. So whatever one does out of it is positive, and the outcome will be positive in the long term towards us. No? And then the ultimate benefit is it leads us to enlightenment, right? So as it says, you know, out of great compassion, then comes bodhicitta, and out of bodhicitta, we become Buddha, right? So what is the starting point of the whole process of the Mahayana path is this mind of compassion, of love. So it's not something intellectual, it's something that one has to experience in the heart, right? And it's like a small fire that one has to kindle and take very care, because it dries out, you know, and then it's difficult to start again the fire, you know, with two sticks, you know, you want to start a fire, it's very hard. So when you finally manage, you really take care of it very carefully so that it doesn't die out, right? And then, because you know, when it dies out, it's so hard to generate again, right? So I think our love, compassionate mind is like a delicate fire that we just start, and it can easily die out, and it's very difficult to generate again. Here I'm not speaking about the intellectual love, compassion that we have when we recite our prayer mechanically, you know. It's not that. What I speak about is the emotion that you have when you actually induce it in you, when you live it, right? That's very delicate, and that needs constant nourishment. You know, it's like really like a delicate plant, you know, like an orchid that you grew, you know, with so much effort. So you really take care of it. So, and I think love and compassion is something like that, that one has to nourish, you know. And then if one is in that state of love and compassion, I think, you know, the people around us are comfortable. You know, if we live with this loving, compassion mind, our partner is relaxed, is happy. You know, our children are relaxed, happy. Our parents, our friends, our community. You know, because somehow the energy we emanate is not scary. You know, we don't threaten people. We don't threaten with our words, with our thoughts, and with our behavior, because we have this kindness, you know, that we emanate. And then, of course, if the people don't feel threatened, you know, they start relaxing too. They go into this relaxed mood, and then they become happy, and then they start, you know, how to say, the vibration activate, or the similar vibration in other people, in the people around us in our life. So, and then naturally people around us become happy, and you know, their kind heart also start being activated. So it's simply by our example, not so much by our words, you know, it's simply by who we are, we manifest that, and then other people start being affected, in a positive way. So, and then we contemplate the opposite, if we don't have a kind heart, So often, the opposite of a kind heart is we are very egoistic, we are very self-centered, I need this, I want that, I want it this way, I want it that way, so we can self-obsess by our desire, our wishes, our way of seeing things, our way of doing things, and we go into that mood, into that space, right? And it's never completely the way we want, it could always be better, or more like this, more like that. So we are not relaxed, we are not at peace, we start becoming like a control freak, and things never work out, the ego is never satisfied, and the more we have, the more we want, and it could always be better. And then we get easily irritated when things don't go our way. And then we are unhappy with ourselves because we know we are difficult, we are unhappy. And then, of course, we spread that energy around us. It makes the people around us uptight, unhappy. They don't want to upset us, or what did I say, or what did I do? We become a difficult person to be around with. So people stay away, so then, we become lonely, and, and then because we don't like us, nobody likes me, we have this self-pity energy that arises, So that's, if we don't cultivate the kind heart, if we put that to an extreme, that's what happens, So if you weigh the pro and con, you see that having a kind heart, loving heart is so indispensable. So the point is that we know these things, but unless we are a bodhisattva, I think a bodhisattva has this spontaneous love and compassion, So an aspiring bodhisattva still has to work on it. I think a real bodhisattva is when this love and compassion is there spontaneously in him all the time. Like His Holiness Dalai Lama and this higher being. They don't need to work on it, they have it. Even though I was surprised, recently I watched a video, a YouTube video of a teaching His Holiness Dalai Lama gave on the tree turning of the wheel. And there he says, every day he recites that verse, for as long as space remain, for as long as sentient beings remain, may I remain to alleviate the suffering of being. That verse from Shantideva. He says he recites that verse 100 times every day. That's amazing, I thought that's quite amazing. He recites that verse every day 100 times. And then when recently he gave this teaching on the precious garland, there's 20 verse there inside in the precious garland near the end, again where is this bodhisattva ideal prayer, which is similar to the king of prayer, or the dedication of Shantideva, is this bodhisattva aspiration. And he says he recites this verse every day 3 times. So there are 20 verses about this bodhisattva aspiration. So that makes 100 times the verse, may, for as long as space remain. 3 times this 20 verse from Nagarjuna. And then, Shantideva dedication, then Bodhicharyavatara, and then King of Prayer, So all this kind of maintains that mood, that state of mind. So I think it was a good example for me, I said, wow, if even His Holiness Dalai Lama finds some benefit in reciting these things, to cultivate that mood, that state of mind. Wow, it really taught me something, So it's not something that you recite just from time to time. It's something actually that helps you to keep that state, to cultivate it, to nourish it. So I think it needs some effort, some work, For example, recently I read something about from Lama Yeshe and Bodhicitta, and he said, you have a busy life, you come home, you cannot just sit down on your cushion and meditate. It doesn't work like that. The energy has to, you cannot just squeeze yourself, change your energy. You have to go with the flow, right? So, but you can read on the sit on the sofa, sip a cup of tea, and relax, and wish all being well, meditate on love, may all beings be happy, and try to feel it sincerely in your heart, may they be in good health, may they have a good life, may everything, may all the goodness comes into life. And one starts, with one's partner, with one's children, with one's parents. So Lama Tsongkhapa says, in Lama Rinpoche, you don't meditate on love for all sentient beings and compassion for all sentient beings. He says it doesn't work that way. If you meditate, may all beings be happy, may all beings be free of suffering, and then you might not have love and compassion for the person you live with. All sentient beings doesn't necessarily include the people in your everyday life. He says it becomes like an intellectual love and compassion. It becomes something out there. So he says it's very important when you meditate on love and compassion, you start with the people close to you in your life, right? You start with the people you live with, you see in everyday life, and myself, even Trump is part of my everyday life, because every day I see something outrageous that he says or does, So he's somebody in my psychic world that I have to meditate on. You see, I have to be able to generate love and compassion for Trump, so that my heart doesn't close up each time I see or hear about him, So if one is able to have love and compassion for everyone in our everyday life, then Lama Tsongkhapa says, then you gradually extend that and include all living beings. But we have to start with the people we live with, and then with the difficult people that are in our world, So in Shantideva, on the chapter on joyous perseverance, he says there are three obstacles that we face in our spiritual progress. One is laziness. Basically we don't make the effort to progress. So basically we know we should work on our love and compassion, but we are lazy. We are not doing it because we are distracted by this and that, and we have this inertia, of not actually shake us up, you know. So then he says, to shake that up, we have to remember impermanence and death, you know, that we don't have a eternity in front of us, and we have no guarantee that we have such a great opportunity again next life. So we should try to make as much effort as we can, you know? And the other one, the other obstacle we have is discouragement. You know, oh, I tried so many times, you know, and I fail, you know. I try, you know, I try to meditate on love and compassion, and I had it for a while, and then it degenerate. And so basically we get discouraged because we practice for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and basically we go in our routine and we don't make that much progress, so we get kind of discouraged, you know. So then Shantideva says, you know, we have to have a long-term view, you know, so that in the long term, he says, you know, even an insect one day will become Buddha. So we, which are human, which have teacher, which have teachings and intelligence and free time, so why not try to persevere, you know? I remember at Nalanda Monastery, there was a monk that was discouraged, a friend of mine. You know, he wasn't able to study, he wasn't able to meditate. So he was complaining to Geshe Chokla, you know, what's the point for me to stay monk? You know, I'm not going to become a teacher. I'm not going to study well, you know, I cannot meditate. So maybe better, you know, to go back in society and do something useful. And Geshe Tekshok's reply was, you know, just keeping your vows, your monk vows, you know, it's like adding a drop into a bucket of water, you know. He says, life after life, it will become better and easier. Life after life, you know. So your effort is one drop of water after drop of water, you know. So we forget sometimes how our effort fits into the big picture, you know. We have this narrow view of just this life, and we have to get the accomplishment now in this life. Whereas, you know, the Tibetan master have this view of a long term, you know. So, and that helps to counteract our discouragement. And the other one, the other obstacle that Shantideva mentioned is attachment to entertainment, you know, distraction, you know. So nowadays we have a lot of entertainment, you know, with internet and all these things, you know, it comes even in our living room, you know, we don't even need to go out to find entertainment, you know, it's right there with us all the time. So that, you know, what Shantideva says, yes, it's not necessarily harmless by itself, but we waste a lot of time with that. You know? So watching movie and these things, you know, we waste a lot of time with these things that we could use to develop this good heart. So I think then Shantideva gives this antidote, you know, how to remove this antidote, you know, this laziness, discouragement, and attachment to entertainment. You know, he says, so first thing is to have this aspiration, you know, aspiration to develop this good heart by seeing its preciousness. So if we have a good heart, it takes care of our future life, and it will lead us to enlightenment, and it makes our life harmonious with the people around us, you know. So it makes our mind happy, it makes the people around us comfortable, and finally it will lead us to enlightenment. So to remember that, you know, how important it is to have this good heart. So we have to remind ourselves, you know, by reading verses by His Holiness, or, you know, I like also Lama Yeshe has some kind of nice verses about, having, living with an open heart, this kind of state of mind. And so here and there, all the practice on Lojong that Thupten Jinpa made recently, a book on the essential of mind training. So to read a little verse every day, something about mind training, I think to cultivate, to nourish that, And then the second antidote that Shantideva gives, is to have this self-confidence. I can do it. I can do it. I'm intelligent. I can do it. We have to have this self-confidence. Oh, if I apply the energy, if I put my heart into it, I can succeed. And then the third, antidote that he gives is to have joy, to take the work with joy. So to cultivate love and compassion, that it's a joy to cultivate that. So we have to be creative to make it interesting, to make it enjoyable, to generate love and compassion. So one reason he gives is that in the long term, you see, because meditating on love and compassion will make ourselves happy, will make the people around us happy, and it will lead us to enlightenment. So this cultivating of the warm heart, the kind heart, will lead us to enlightenment. So we take joy in meditating on love and compassion. And then the fourth antidote gives, says, when you're tired, you rest. So when when you make effort, and when you're tired, you relax. And then when you relax, when the energy comes back, again, we make effort. I remember Lama Yeshe in the old days, he used to say, in the evening, when you're tired, instead of watching a movie, it's maybe better to go to sleep. Because watching a movie might make a lot of negative emotion in your mind and make your mind tired, Whereas if you go to sleep, it might be not that virtuous, but at least you relax and how to say, you rest and you wake up with fresh energy, So I think there is something there, we tend to be late at night, and then it becomes difficult to wake up in the morning early, And then if we check what we're actually doing late at night, it's very rare that it's there when we have our best meditations, For me, it's always a puzzle when I hear His Holiness schedule, that he wakes up at 3:30 in the morning, and at 8 o'clock at night he's in bed, It's completely opposite to what we tend to do, So, but actually it's very healthy to go to bed early, and it's very healthy to wake up early in the morning, if one could. And His Holiness actually has his 8-9 hours of sleep, So when he wakes up at 3 o'clock in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, his mind is very clear, very, very, very refreshed, And then he says he does 4 hours of meditation, right? So from 4 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock. So when we wake up, His Holiness already has done 4 hours of meditation, So I found that quite inspiring, to hear and to aim to come closer to that lifestyle, which seems to be very wholesome. And then how do we cultivate, this state of mind? I think one way is to meditating on the four immeasurable, you know, how wonderful it would be if all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May they have happiness and its cause. I will cause them to have happiness and its cause. Please, Guru Buddha, bless me to bring this about in this way. So these four immeasurable thoughts are actually very powerful. So a friend of mine, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, gave him to recite these four immeasurable 100,000 times. So I think there's something there in this repetition of these immeasurable, especially in the long way, like that. So in Buddhism, when we have this thought of may he be happy. But if that person finds happiness in killing and in having destructive action, you see, we don't want that person to be happy in that way. If that person finds happiness in getting drunk, or, so we don't wish that person to drink more, to find his happiness. So I think there's something, we wish all beings to be happy, or we wish that person to be happy, but it doesn't mean that the happiness, the way that person understands it, So when as Buddhists we wish a person to be happy, is that happiness means a mind free from mental affliction. This inner happiness we wish to the person. That person experience love and compassion, the positive emotion, realize emptiness, and becomes a bodhisattva and a Buddha. That's the type of happiness we wish to other. So it doesn't mean that we wish the person, to have the fulfillment of his or her wishes. So that's not the type of love that we have, right? So it's love, with love, what you look at is the Buddha nature in the person. You try to see the Buddha nature or the Buddha potential or the pure awareness in the person. That's the person you wish to develop, or that person to be happy. So it's not the ego of the person you wish to be happy, right? So one has to look through the appearance of the ego of the person and look inside the person. And that's the person we wish to be happy. So that's the key point, I think, when we meditate on love. The definitions may the person be happy. So it's not the normal happiness, So we have to have the wisdom to look inside a person, and wish that person to be happy. And then we have when we have compassion for them, we have compassion for their affliction. May they get relief from their affliction, from their selfishness. For them drunkenness, from their harsh speech, from their selfishness, from making, with their motorbike or car being very noisy at 2 o'clock in the morning, being completely oblivious of other people, having their selfish ways, So we have compassion for those kind of behavior, May they get free from this kind of behavior. So I think within that state of mind of having this love, to the pureness in being, may they become like His Holiness Dalai Lama, like Chenrezig, or, like all these enlightened beings that we have had the chance to encounter in this life, may they become this beautiful, being this beautiful flower, of enlightenment. So that's what we wish, the love, may they be happy. That's the happiness we wish to them. And then the compassion is to alleviate, all what prevents that in them. So it's not just the physical suffering that people have, it's the mental affliction and they have, and the obscuration to omniscience, and liberation they have within their mind that obscure this Buddha nature, these clouds in their mind. And then from within that state of mind, one can do Tonglen, giving and taking on the movement of the breath. And I think another important meditation is like in the meditation on generating compassion, bodhicitta on the 6 cause 1 effect, and it says that verse in the 7-point toe training too, always meditate on the great kindness of all. I think I like this, always meditate on the great kindness of all. So how to say, we often feel, as adult, we self-sufficient, I depend on myself, I can control my life, but there is something there if one, is able to be humble enough and realize, no, I'm not self-sufficient, I depend on other, Every day I can have my food, independence of people working in field, people working in supermarket. The clothes I wear come from other. The house I'm in comes from other. For my health, I depend on my doctor, nurses, and hospitals, and and for my everyday comfort, I depend on my partner, on my friends, on my social network. They are the source of my happiness, of my well-being, of my peace. So to realize that deep in the heart, my happiness, my everyday happiness depends on other. And the money we have depends on the people that give us our work, and then on the government, which depends on the tax of all beings that pay their taxes and so forth. So we quite very interdependent. Our life, our very life, our very survival depends on so many people. So to reflect on that again and again, it says, I like that, always meditate on the great kindness of all. I think it's really a key meditation. Each time, I think in certain tradition, in the old days, we used to thank God, for our food, but we could, in the same way, thank all sentient beings, for our food. Because yes, it's due to the kindness. And often these people, they work in fields for less than $1 or a franc a day, They work under the hot sun. They don't have a good time working for us, They are often cheap labor coming from poor countries, which are underpaid and live in awful situation. And we go to the supermarket, we buy it easily, and we enjoy a nice meal. But actually that nice meal came through the suffering of many other, And that's not even counting if we eat animal food, If we eat meat, then it's awful, what animals suffer their whole life for us to have our meat in a plate. So yes, our lifestyle is comfortable, but it's come due to the suffering of other in poor countries. So to reflect on these things, it makes something an effect on the heart. You know, it makes you feel, yes, you know, my life is fragile and my emotion, my psychological well-being is fragile, and it's dependent on all these cause and condition coming together. Yes, it's a result of my good karma, but also it depends on the will and the effort of all these other people. So I found that very helpful, you know, to reflect on that. It makes your heart soft, you know, it makes you humble and see, yeah, I depend on all these beings. So thank you so much. You know, I think it helps you to be thankful for what you have, you know. Yes, it could, you see, it could always be better and different, but to appreciate what we have, you know, to remember, you know, the kindness of Father like that, I think is very, very precious. And then, of course, if we have this kind heart, we try to encourage it, you know, in our everyday life. We try to use kind words. We have to be careful the way we speak, because speak affect other, right? So we try, you know, like Shantideva says, you know, before, if you realize that your mind is under control of attachment, desire, or irritation, be like a log, you know, be like a piece of wood. Don't speak, you know. Try first to change your state of mind, you know, try to generate a loving, kind attitude, and then, you know, express yourself with kind words, you know. Be aware that the speech has power and affects other, you know. So especially in everyday life, you know, with our partner, children, you know, the people we are around, you know. So our speech affects them. You know? So I think if we are mindful of that, we try, you know, to be pleasant with our speech, you know. And then, you know, uh, uh, give encouragement for the good things people do, you know, encourage them in their good deeds, you know, congratulate them when they do something nice, you know, say thank you know, when they help you, things like that. I think just to be kind, you know, with our speech. And then, you know, if we have something positive to offer, you know, with our wisdom, we try kindly, you know, to offer helpful suggestion, you know, share our wisdom, our knowledge, you know, but from a state of a kind heart, you know, wishing to help, not out of, you know, pride, you know, wanting to impose our views, no, with this kind of warm feeling in the heart. And then, you know, if people have other ways of doing things, if it leads to the same result, you let them have their way, you know, instead of imposing our way of doing things, maybe, or like, you know, in the eighth verse, offer the victory to others, you know, let them, you know, so it, how to say, whether we do it this way or that way, it gets to the same goal, you know. So let's do it his way or her way, and then, you know, it increases the self-confidence of the person. It helps that person to flourish, and I don't lose anything. I think this is also an attitude there, which is enriching. And then with the body, His Holiness encouraged, for us to be smiling. He says it's a nice offering to others to offer a smile. And it's true. When you're around people which smile, it makes us happy. And it's not a great effort to be smiling. Especially when you go into a shop and somebody serves you, or to offer at least a smile. Thank you. Offer a smile. I think to have a smiling attitude, to be relaxed, smiling and ready to offer help, to offer help like that. So I think these are all things that can easily be integrated in our everyday life. It's all things we know, but just how to say, we get distracted by other things, and especially us as Buddhists, we end up doing all these other practices, then, we have to do our sadhanas, our prayers, and then we recite our mantras, and then we do shine, and then we meditate on emptiness. So we go into this multitasking mode in our spiritual practice, but it's not built on this heart. You see, it's almost like we get dispersed and we forget what's the heart, what's the core, what's the core of our spiritual practice, and it's this development of the good heart. So our energy gets spread thin because we go in all these directions, and then the heart is not nourished properly. So I think this is something each individually we have to reflect on, what's actually the core of my spiritual practice, of my everyday life, my spiritual nourishment. How do I nourish myself spiritually? What are the, how do I make it work? So it seems that from His Holiness' point of view, and all the great lamas, they say really bodhicitta, or the kind heart, the warm heart, is really the core of the practice. And when you look at the text on Lojong, all these things, it's really bodhicitta, or love and compassion, is really at the heart. And many of, there's many sayings, if I only would have one quality, may it be bodhicitta, if, if I have only one accomplishment, may it be bodhicitta, this is 108th verse in praise to great compassion, so these different texts that praise this state of mind, that there's only one quality. If I have only one quality, may it be that. So I think, and it's true, if you check in your experience, when were you the happiest? Is when you have that state of mind, of love, compassion. You feel, it's really the happiest state of mind you can experience. And then whatever your life has meaning, whether you're young, whether you're old, whether you're dying, and then that mind of love and compassion takes care of you in the bardo, and you have a good rebirth and you continue on your path, as long as space exists, as long as sentient beings remain, wherever I go, I go there with my loving, compassionate heart, wherever, I'll do whatever I can, to improve the life of people around me, with my thought, with my speech, and with my action. So uh, one is kind of relaxed, and we have infinite time in front, So I think often we have this narrow view of just this life, but in terms of mind, in terms of psyche, we have infinite time to bring it about. There's another thing that I read a few years ago. There was a book by, I don't know whether you remember that book called Mindfulness in Plain English. It's by a Theravadan monk. And there inside at the end, he gives his meditation on love and compassion. So he says something, I don't remember exactly the word, but he has this prayer that he recites every day, So may I be happy, may I be in good health, may all the goodness comes into my life, and may I have a kind heart, May my partner be happy, may he, she have a good health, and may all the auspiciousness come in his or her life, and may the good heart grows in him or her. And then may my children have, be happy, may they live in peace, may the goodness comes in their life, and may they have a kind heart. And like that, he says that prayer, may Trump, be happy, may live in peace, may the auspiciousness comes in him, and may he develop a kind heart. So basically, you repeat that with all the people in your life. You create a prayer that you repeat, may he or she be happy, have peace, and may the auspiciousness, the goodness come in his or her life, and may they generate a kind heart. So you repeat that with all the people in your life, So the people you like, the difficult people in your life, and then the stranger, and then you expand that, to all. Then you say, all people in my country, all the human beings, and then you can do the same thing with your cat, with your dog, with your bird, and then all the animals, and then the pretas, the hell beings, and the devas, the asuras. So to all beings you wish well, like that, starting one after the other. So this, I think, is that puts you in a kind of nice state of mind where you wish really well to each being individually. And I think Venerable Losang yesterday pointed out a very good point. We're in that state of mind, but then we go down into the street, we walk down and we meet difficult people, and then suddenly we get irritated, So how does that come about? So when we're alone, we control our own mind, we're okay, with that loving mind, but then we meet difficult people. It reminds me of that story that His Holiness sometimes says. He met a monk that was in concentration camp in Tibet for many years. And then when he met His Holiness Dalai Lama, he said, oh, I was afraid. One day I was so afraid, I almost lost it. So His Holiness thought, oh, he means, oh, he almost lost his life. No, I said, oh, I almost lost my love and compassion for the people that tortured me, So that was very powerful for my mind. Wow, that person was really in the state of love and compassion all the time, even while being tortured. You know, he tried to maintain that state of mind of love and compassion in the face of this great adversity. You know, so I think for us, it's like that, you know, when we meet difficult people, people challenging us, you know, that would irritate us. Why can't we generate love and compassion there? So it says, you know, in the 7.0 training, it is us that often we realize, you know, at the beginning of our training, we realize the mistake after, you know. So we get upset and or we get irritated, and we realize after, oh, I shouldn't have, you know, I should have had love and compassion there. So we realize it after that the mental affliction has a reason, you know. And then it says when you train gradually, then you realize while the affliction arise, you know. So you know, when you start getting irritated, say, oh, I get irritated, I shouldn't, you know. And then as your training progress, before you get irritated, you say, oh, I'm about to get irritated, you know. So you realize before you get irritated, you know, something is annoying you. So then you can apply the antidote before you actually get irritated. And I think there's another state, I think is even before that, you try to be in that state of love and compassion all the time. Right? So before you go out into the street, you put you see ahead, oh, I'm going down that street and I'm going to meet all these strange people, you know, it's strange non-virtuous behavior, you know. So before going there, I put my mind in a state of love and compassion. Right? So you go out of your flat, you know, with a mind of love and compassion, and you walk down there with Tonglen, you know, or as Chenrezi, sending rays of light, you know, out of love and compassion to all these beings. So you prepare your mind before going into a difficult situation. You know? So and then because you prepared, you know, then it doesn't shake your mind because you prepared. You were prepared to face these difficult people. You know? So you're not shocked, you're not surprised. And then I think there's another point that is important, is that sometimes love and compassion is quite easy to generate and at the time it's difficult. How come? I think it also has something to do with the cleanliness of our mind, you know. So if we realize that we're in a period where it's difficult to generate love and compassion, you know, maybe it's time to do some purification, you know, some cleaning of the mind, you know, to put more emphasis on Vajrasattva or on 35 Buddhas or on doing a new day or something like that, just to clean the mind. You know, and then suddenly it becomes easier again, you know. So sometimes we forget that aspect, that, you know, the mind is a little bit like our teeth, you know. We don't ask questions, we clean our teeth all the time, you know. So the mind also gets dirty, you know, with our thoughts and our emotion, and then there's this kind of how to say, instead of being sharp and awake and curious and alive, you know, life, everything becomes a little bit gray. You know, we see the world through the filter of our grayness, of our of our unclean mind. So when we realize that, it's good to remember, it's time maybe to clean a little bit our mind. And I think for me, I like to watch this YouTube video, especially for me, Sorens Dalai Lama. It's something that always, his manifestation in his 21st century on Earth is quite amazing. And I like especially when he speaks in English. Nowadays, his command of the English language becomes better and better. And then when he speaks in English, it's very, heart moving, kind of, the way he manifests love and compassion, with people with all walks of life. It's a kind of a great teaching of how we could be, yeah. And then his emphasis to, he says the solution for our 21st century basically is compassion, is love. Is to promote that, and that we have to find a secular way to teach it to children in schools, and from baby onwards we have to promote this love and compassion, because without that the whole world will fall apart. It's our selfishness that creates this crazy world that that becomes less and less livable. So whatever we can do in our own way, to be love and compassion, and to share that energy around. I think this is really the core. So I also, His Holiness can emphasize, in general, it's better to live in society and to be a good example, to others, than to live in retreat. He says to live in retreat is okay, if you have the, how to say, the stamina, to make a great progress. If you have the karma to make great progress, maybe it's beneficial. But for most people, it's better to live in society and being a good example to others, by the way you peacefully and kindly live your life. I think so. Each one of us, in our own way, we can share that around us, and like he says, one person affects 10, and this 10 affect 10 more, and this affect 10 more, and gradually, we create a better society around oneself. So. So I think it's really, for me, really, after all these years, when I'm thinking about what's really the essence of my spiritual practice, it's really trying to develop this kind heart, and to nourish it, because it easily dies out. It's like a small fire. If you don't feed it properly, it dies out. And I think we all had that experience, and then it dies out and it's difficult to generate again. So once we have it, we should always nourish it, and and keep on cleaning the mind and nourishing it more, so that it becomes. So at the beginning, it's difficult to induce. We have just this intellectual love and compassion. Then we have this warm heart that starts growing, and we still, and then we get it through effort. So this is the level of true effort. We can create it and maintain it, and then it needs less and less effort. It becomes more and more spontaneous, and then it becomes innate. It becomes our way of being, So I think we have to aspire that, and then make all our prayers, all our recitation of mantra and sadhana motivated by that, you know? And then our everyday life, you know, becomes more pleasant and helpful for others. We are more at peace, you know. Our life is happier, and the people around us are happy, you know, with ourselves. So I think it's a win-win, you know, everybody gains from it. Mm. So I think the main key is to realize that to come to that realization, that's the most important point in my spiritual life, and that I really have to work to generate it and cultivate it, to nourish it, you know, by whatever means works for me. You know? So I think this is, yeah, that's what I wanted to share with you. And I don't know whether you agree, you know, or not, but I found for me that's really important. And yeah, I think you can think about it and see how it works for you in your life. You know? And then the main point is that we get easily dispersed, you know, we get, you know, there's so many things that can attract our attention, and it's good to have an anchor, a central, a core point where we always come back to, you know, like when you sit down, the first thing you do, you know, you watch the breath, to bring your mind in a neutral place. And once the mind is a neutral place, then we induce this loving mind, you know. So normally one goes quickly through the lamri, you know, the stages of the path, and one goes to this bodhicitta, and then the main point in it is to work on that state of mind, you know, to really induce it. And now we are lucky to have all these texts available, you know, to nourish it, you know, from so many teachers and even videos and things, you know, so we're very fortunate. So it's not that we don't have the tools, it's to realize that it's the most important point. I think that's where, and that I really have to work on it to induce it. I know nowadays a little bit, you know, people think the most important thing is Dzogchen or Mahamudra or Shine or deity yoga, you know. Yes, all these things are good if they are rooted in love and compassion, bodhicitta. You know, if that core is there, all these things is fantastic. But if that core is not there, it's not even a Mahayana practice. You know, even Dzogchen Mahamudra is not Mahayana. You know, because the core, the heart is not there. You know? Anyway, that's what I wanted to share. So if you have any questions, you're welcome. Or share your experience. You know, what do you think about it? You know, what do you think for, you know, like amongst you, you know, many of you are old student, you know, many years of practice and experience and thinking over it and trying to integrate in your life. So what do you think about yourself? Yeah, now I ask you that question. What for you think from your life experience has been the most enriching practice or state of mind that you have encountered in your teacher, or that you have been working on and that you have induced in your mind? What has been the most precious from your life experience? So you can open your microphone.
Okay, can I speak?
Yeah, sure, Vicky.
I think it's very profound, love. When you get away from the analysis of love, and when you really love is when it's difficult to love. in difficult situations and for people maybe who are really suffering. And I think that love is the core, as you said, of Mahayana, because when you love, you think only of the other person. And when you think only of the other person, you automatically, the ego automatically shrinks, or it dissolves a little bit, depending on your capacity. So then at that shrinking of your own ego, because you're only concerned about the other person, then I think you do realize a certain degree of selflessness. And then there's no separation between yourself and the other person or the other being. And even though it's hard because, you know, they're suffering, there is joy there because your ego has diminished. So I think with love, it's like, you know, Gachin Rinpoche says it's like you're like an ice block. Ice block is only condensed and solid, very cold water. But when love shines, like the sun shines on ice, it melts. And then it melts into the big ocean, into the water. Then there's no separation. So I think love is very, I think love is the way to diminish the ego. That's my thought. And to find a joy, to find real joy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you much. Okay. Someone else? Come on, don't be shy.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello from Mallorca, Spain.
Hi, Myron.
It is very late here. Well, I think you are right that we forget very soon the core or the aim of our practice and our studies. We like happiness, but sometimes we don't like very much the causes of happiness. And we don't like suffering, but we like the causes of suffering, no? But sometimes when you think, sorry for my English, when you think backwards and you remember moments of your life when you have been very selfish, acting only for your own benefit, I think when you remember that, you don't feel so well. You feel like a little bit constrained. Whereas when you think of moments of the past where you have been generous and altruistic and taking care for others, then you feel much better. But we forget in the everyday life that what you are expecting and doing only for yourself will not bring even a benefit for you. But I think it's every time that's important to have a good heart and be a good person. Of course, there are masters and teachers and gurus and teachers like you that are very inspiring. So please take care of us.
What do you find? My question is, what's the challenge? How come that we are not able to do it all the time? You know, we know and we aspire, you know, we're inspired. How come we are not managing? You know, what's the resistance? What blocks us? You know, what interferes with that state of mind? And I'm not 100% sure myself, you know, I'm still trying to discover what's going on there, that even though we know it's important, we like it, how come we are not able to be in that state of mind all the time? What do you think?
Well, I think it is our habit and our very rooted tendencies to take care of ourselves much more than taking care of others. So we have to change this habit.
Yeah, that's true.
And we have to change this the everyday life. That's the important form of mindfulness. No, that's the essence of mindfulness.
That's true.
We do what we can, but yeah.
Peter, what do you think? Peter Janchup?
Okay, if nobody says something, can I say something?
Okay, go ahead.
Shall we wait for Peter and Jangchuk to give us their wisdom?
Yeah. No, go on.
I think what is difficult, because what Vicky said, you know, because it's you love those also that are suffering, and so your heart is totally open, but then you can't help. So it's always this, you know, we have this need that something should change, and then they're difficult to help, and we don't have the wisdom or not the skills. If you can help them, the heart stays open, is absolutely not a problem. But if they, especially if they don't collaborate with you, what you think is good for them, then it's difficult to keep the heart open. Instead of just being content with, you know, wanting them to be happy, we want to make them happy. I think this could be one of the obstacles there. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, we get impatient when we're not able to help them. But I think, again, there is not seeing the long term. You know, we want immediate. You know, for me, to remember His Holiness, you know, the way he deals with the Chinese, you know, he has this long-term view, you know. Yeah, so he plants seeds here and there, and, you know, in the long term, you know, there's gonna be some benefit, not right now. No? So I think to have this long-term view, I think many of our lamas have these you can see in their behavior, in the actions they start, they don't expect the result to come, you know, in the next few years or even in their lifetime, you know. I think many of the actions Lama Yeshe did, or Lama Zopa Rinpoche, the projects they start, or His Holiness, you know, the effect, the result is not aimed to come now. So I think for us, same, perhaps when we deal with these kind of people, to know that we just plant seeds, and, you know, these seeds, you know, might ripen in many lifetimes to come. No? So, Peter.
I have nothing to say.
Come on.
I agree. Oh, no, it's all, I agree, totally. And even it's what you said just now, even they do not expect something, you know, it's not even about the results they care, those who really are the bodhisattvas. So we always have some we always want something back, or some speculation or something, and that's childish. So anyway, can try.
Yeah, we keep on trying. And you, Jangchup, what do you think?
Yeah, many things to add, and still, I mean, nothing more to say, you know, just keep, just try, keep trying. And as you said, to have this kind of long-term idea in the back. Yeah.
Nina, Jeff? What do you think?
So we are beginner practitioners, so we don't have anything very valuable to share with everyone, but I do actually have a question in mind. So I think especially at the beginning of our path, we get very inspired and we hear a lot about selflessness and doing this for others. Yet you said, Venerable, also that it's important to strike a balance and also take care of our body, make sure that we are able to do it long term and things like that. And I feel like there is some kind of conflict that is hard for me to resolve, or hard to find the balance between doing things for others and offering our time and practicing with others on mind, and feeling like we should be selfless, we should have realized the emptiness of self, yet finding a way of not becoming martyrs and miserable and sick and really taking care of also our needs. So having also us in mind so that we are able to share that love and joy with others, we have to first have it in our hearts.
Definitely. I think,
To find the balance there is the question.
I like that in that Bhante Gunattara, in the mindfulness in plain English says, it starts with me, may I have love, may I have peace, may I be happy, and then may my partner be, so it starts with me, so it's almost like your wisdom mind speaks to your ego, to your other side of your mind, so may I have peace, may I be happy, may goodness comes in my life, so you wish yourself well, and from that wholesome state of mind you wish it to other. So I think, yes, one has to start with taking care of oneself, taking care of one's own mind. So, but the way to take care of one's mind, is to live an ethical life and a wholesome life with a good heart. So that's taking care of oneself, But often we, in the West, maybe we think we need to become a busybody, to be active and doing 100,000 things to serve. But that's not what is meant, One doesn't need to do much, but whatever one does it with a peaceful and kind heart, So often we think we have to do a lot, but I don't think necessarily that's true. So I think it's better to do something well than to do 10 things not so well, Better to do less, but with better quality, than to do a lot and, And often I think if one is involved in many projects, maybe we don't need to control all of them. We can delegate and let the other people being free to lead the project the way they want, and then like that more gets accomplished. So I think that's also a thought. Like when you see like His Holiness Dalai Lama or Lama Zopa Rinpoche, they have hundreds and hundreds of projects, but they're not leading the project. They're just planting seed and let the other people do this project, So I think there's something, sometimes we might want to do too much, that maybe we could have the impulse to start it and then let the other people, make it grow in the way with their mind, with their wisdom.
René, may I ask you something? I just remembered lastly, His Holiness was saying somehow as long as we don't have reached kind of, the Shantideva's Kapitel 6.
Mm-hmm.
Patience, chapter 6, patience, then if we don't have reached the whole point of chapter 6, then we can't practice bodhicitta. I'm not sure if I have right in my mind, but I think it went in this direction. Can you say some words?
I don't know what you've referred to. I don't understand really.
Lastly, in a video,
Yeah.
I remember, was it? I don't remember, but I remember this thesis.
You mean if you don't have patience, you cannot develop bodhicitta?
Yeah.
That's what you want to say?
Yeah.
I mean, normally, one generate bodhicitta first, and then, if you go, based on bodhicitta, then you practice the sixth perfection, right? So in Shantideva, it speaks about first generating bodhicitta and then practicing the sixth perfection, generosity, ethic, patience, and so forth. So I think love and compassion is something that helps you against getting irritated and getting angry and things like that. So love and compassion is an antidote to anger. But yeah, what it says, as long as there's one person that you don't love, you don't have bodhicitta. As long as you're angry at one person or you don't like one person, you don't have bodhicitta. So, but I think now this discussion is not about bodhicitta, it's about simple having a kind heart, loving heart, and, loving compassion. I think bodhicitta for me, it's too far ahead. If you really think what bodhicitta is, it's really an outrageous, far out state of mind. And I don't know whether I'm able to reach that in this life, if you really think what bodhicitta is quite...
So then it's only a translation things when you talk about loving kindness and all these things as this direction, it's meant bodhicitta, no? In Chansim, I'm Tibetan.
Yeah. Love and compassion, yes. But you see, one has to start by generating love and compassion generally in one's heart with the people around us, and then you make it. But bodhicitta, you see, is to wish to free all sentient beings from all their suffering, from cyclic existence, and lead them to the omniscient mind. So it's something else than love and compassion.
Yeah.
Bodhicitta is you want to become an omniscient being to be able to lead all beings to enlightenment. So it's kind of, it's like we speak about love and compassion like that, and bodhicitta is like, so we have to start there, because otherwise bodhicitta becomes again an intellectual thing. Intellectually, yes, I understand bodhicitta. Intellectually, I can induce bodhicitta. I can intellectually say, like I want to be happy, all living beings want to be happy. And then, the self-centered attitude is the cause of all problem, and cherishing others is the cause of all happiness. And, aspire to bring all beings to light. But it's very intellectual. It's not at all this organic living thing. I'm not in the state of mind of having my mind that embrace all living beings with my love and compassion, in which all living beings is as precious as my only child. Like they say, one's supposed to see all beings like as precious as one's only child. I don't see an insect and mosquito as precious as my only child yet.
I agree.
So it's it's kind of another level now. And nowadays I feel that we kind of water down bodhicitta so much that a person that has a kind gesture for someone is a bodhisattva, But it's not that, bodhicitta is something completely a different, a different realm, I feel.
Okay, thank you.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Well, one thing that helps me with patience is something that Yangtze Rinpoche said once. He said, in order to have patience, you have to have self-confidence. So I noticed that when I get impatient, there's like a fear or something that is getting in the way. So I get impatient because anyway, it's just something that's helped me a lot to look at myself, like instead of getting impatient and going outward at the person I'm getting impatient, like to turn it around and say, okay, how come I'm doing this? Anyway, that's just something that has helped me with patience, since we were talking about patience. That's all. Thank you.
Someone else?
Hello, René. Hello, it's Jeff.
Hi, Jeff.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, your question about kind of love and compassion and the state of mind. And I feel like my personal challenge is, I don't always understand or recognize my state of mind. And I think it's easy when I'm in this Dharma group and I'm generating this state of mind, but then when I'm with non-Dharma practitioners, the topic is changing, the focus changes, and I don't even recognize my own state of mind.
Yeah.
So then it becomes very difficult to generate any type of love or compassion, or if I don't even know where I am. So I feel like there's so much distraction that we can't, or I can't remember, what is kind of my goal and where do I want to be with my mind. So I find that challenging.
Yeah, I think that's why I think one of the basic practices mindfulness, right? Is mindfulness moment by moment, what state of mind we are in, So I think in the Theravada, it starts with mindfulness of the body, to be aware, I'm lifting my arm, I'm moving my foot, etc. We mindfully recite the word, I'm lifting my arm, I'm moving my foot like that. And I think in the Tibetan tradition, the first mindfulness, His Holiness says, is the mindfulness of karma, to be aware whether what one thing says or does is virtuous or non-virtuous. So that's the first level of mindfulness he encourages. And he says is that mindfulness that will then transform into the mindfulness that will help for calm abiding. So he says, because you have these three stages, right? You have the three higher training, ethic, concentration, and wisdom. So he says the concentration actually is based on the mindfulness of ethic. It's the mindfulness that comes in ethic. So I think, in everyday life is to be aware more and more, of what one thing says or does. And it's true, in certain environment, it's much easier than others, especially I think in some working environment, and with people which have completely different goals, give different aims in life, So one speak about sport or politics or work and things like that. And then one gets into that energy and the mindfulness of our spiritual life aim, it's difficult to maintain. Yeah. So for me, when I used to work in that kind of environment, I would go to the bathroom quite often, to put my mind, in the right space again, and then go out, try to ways to isolate myself, to get my mind straight back, in a good space. Because we lose it.
Do you have any tricks to quickly get your mind to right space when you're in the bathroom? Like, should we like have a verse or something that inspires us?
Whatever. There you have to find whatever works for you, you know, on what you're working there, you know. So doing Tonglen or having a verse that you recite, you know, in your mind, or, you know, watching your breath. Just do a 9-round breathing to bring first your mind to a neutral state, and then from that neutral state you induce again a positive, you know, state of mind, and then you go out with that positive state of mind. Lynn, there's something to say? No?
I've got something to share. This week I was attending a webinar by Rasmus, the Potential Project on Compassionate Leadership. And he asked the people who attended it, like, what their main obstacle for compassion in their work was. And the number one thing that people shared was, well, there are two, it's stress and busyness. Stress and busyness kind of like preventing you from being in that space of compassion. And I guess it seems really obvious, and yet somehow I think maybe because, you know, on a personal level, like I'm going through a period of intense busyness, that I hadn't made that connection. Because of course you're so focused on getting things done that you're less available for others, and you have less empathy, and you have less time to listen. And I hadn't made that connection before, and I guess it just made me sad, because many of us are in those situations where it almost seems beyond our control, that there's a lot of busyness. But then to see, like, you have to have the conditions for the mind to nurture this compassionate, loving heart. And so in some ways, I think it gave me maybe more courage to try to find ways to not be in this space of busyness, I guess. Like, to see how that prevents me from having this loving, compassionate mind. And yeah, maybe it sounds really obvious, but I think I hadn't made that connection before.
I think if you look the way His Holiness Dalai Lama lived his life, or Lama Yeshe used to, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, or these Dalai Lamas, you know, it's really a good teaching there, is that actually, from our perspective, you could say, oh, it's quite selfish, you know, he meditates till 8 o'clock in the morning, or Lama Zopa Rinpoche, he meditates till lunch, you know, why can't they already help people during that time, you know? But actually, you need space for yourself to be in that compassionate state, you know, to be able to help others. So I think one has to realize that one needs space for oneself, you know, to cultivate one's inner garden, you know, and then you can help others with that mind. You know? So I think if it's true for these high beings, so what about for us, you know? So yeah, I think I think this was the one exception I remember is Goenka, you know, Goenka, the Vipassana teacher, you know. So he seems to being busy all the time, you know, and getting his realization while working as a, you know, as a public servant. But I never met him, or I never No, it's just heard. No, but all the other lamas, they seem to be quite having time for themselves. You know.
Venerable, it's Talia here. May I
Yeah.
ask a question?
Mm.
So you were earlier talking about walking down the streets. So I'm currently in Vancouver, BC, and there is a district in downtown Vancouver. It's called Downtown Eastside Vancouver, and there's like 3 blocks, you know, west east. It's almost like the district that all the drug addicts hang out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's rather sad often to walk down there, walk past there, and people are often overwhelmed by the kind of what they witness on the streets. They often will just shoot up on the streets in bright daylight, and of course I also have lots of homeless people that stay there. I heard that in Switzerland there's no homeless people. So, but here there's a district of 3 blocks that's full of people that will push carts, that everything, their belongings were there. So how do you deal with the kind of overwhelming sadness when you walk down those streets? Or just in general, you see people who are less fortunate than me, the kind of sadness that you feel by witnessing that, and not just walk away. Like I would take a detour, you know, so that I don't pass there. So how do we actually deal with that? I know that there's a Tibetan Lama saying, well, being sad doesn't help, so get up and work on it. So, but then, so just in general, how do we deal with that deep sadness when you witness suffering in the world, or just in your daily life?
I think these situations are very precious in the sense they're easy to generate. They help us to generate compassion very easily, you know. So they're very helpful because compassion is a precious state of mind. So if there are situations that helps us trigger it, you know, it's very nice, you know. So we have to use those to generate compassion. And then this compassion turns into this aspiration, may I be able to do something, right? And at the moment I cannot do something. So for their sake, I aspire to reach enlightenment. You know? So in turns, the compassion turns into this aspiration for enlightenment, you know? So, and then whatever, you can recite prayer for them, you know, may I become Buddha for their sake, and may I be able then to help them, you know. And then of course, if one can offer a smile or a kind word or something, you know, then it's nice, you know, on top of that. But I think the main thing is the compassion is there. Why in the mind, and why we generate compassion is then for us to reach enlightenment. Right? So the compassion turns into this aspiration, realizing that at the moment I cannot free beings. You know? So to transform that into this aspiration towards enlightenment. You know? So I think this is compassion turns into aspiration. For their sake, I wish to reach enlightenment. So of course, whatever help one can give, one does. But the main thing there, I think, is it reinforces you wish I have to quickly become enlightened so that I have the skill and qualities to actually being able to help. I mean, you know, sometimes Lama, you know, certain lamas say, you know, as long as you don't have clairvoyance, you cannot really help others. You don't really know what's going on there, you know. So there's this fact that our capacity to help are limited. We have to acknowledge that we don't see the whole picture. We don't understand who's who, what's going on in their life. I think this is a fact, you know. So Yeah, so that again, this is recognition of being humble in front of all this suffering, you know, that's only so much we can do. You know? And then even, you know, even the Dalai Lama would be there, he wouldn't be able to alleviate their suffering. You know? At the moment, people, is the ripening of the crazy karma, and one has to wait till that karma finishes to have that there is a space for them to be open to something else. You know? So I think it needs this kind of much bigger picture. You know, we're so narrow into the present, you know, the present situation, and we're overwhelmed by it. I think we need to have a bigger picture. You know?
Thank you, Venerable.
Yeah. Something else?
Venerable, hello, this is Francesca. I was thinking, I would like to come back to the point that was raised also by Fabian and by Jeff, because I'm also one of those very busy person, and in the evening I come home from work and I'm tired. But then I think the important thing is also to have some determination, because it's so easy to find excuses. Oh, I'm so tired, now I need to relax. Oh, I'm so tired, now I cannot meditate. I'm so tired, I cannot do anything except lie around on the sofa. And then time is wasted. So how to find a balance between taking care of oneself, but not having too many excuses to do nothing?
Mm-hmm. I think also there's, you know, another busy person was Mother Teresa, you know, in Calcutta. I think she was quite busy, you know, taking care of all these sick people, but yet she always maintained this kind of love and compassion, you know, in her heart as much as possible, you know, while, you know, seeing Christ in each person, or whatever her trick was, you know, to, I think one has to find a trick that is that we can integrate in our busy life, that reminds us, you know, that this love and compassion is important, you know, to bring into our business, into our work, and, you know, to bring the love and compassion in there. So I think the first thing is, I think, is to motivate oneself in the morning, you know, that, you know, I'm going to go through my day with love and compassion, you know, and then throughout the day to have little breaks where one can see whether one is able to maintain that love and compassion, and then to regenerate us or to remotivate ourselves and go to the next part of our day with that state of mind. Of course, it's all very easy to say, you know, it's something more challenging to bring it about. But I think that the main point is to see that it's important, and that one has to make an effort, and that's really the key in our spiritual practice. So that's.
Thank you.
Okay. Someone else has some last things to say?
I do, if there are no other questions. I have to say thank you. First of all, thank you, Venerable, for taking the time. You said that you miss coming to Switzerland. I can say probably on behalf of Switzerland that Switzerland also and Europe misses you coming too. So it's so amazing that we have this technology that at least we can connect and see you, although it's maybe not beautiful, like we sometimes spend beautiful time together in the Swiss mountains, but still the connection is there through the technology, and we are just grateful that you are taking your time from your busy day to share the most important thing we probably have to hear, because I think especially in times when we are all anxious and at homes and there is a pandemic, it's not a natural thing that our mind goes to love and compassion. So to be reminded of that, and to be reminded what our practice is all about. It's beyond precious. So thank you so much for doing it for us. And also, I wanted to say thank you to the 3 Swiss centers or 2 Swiss PMT centers and the Laksam study group for organizing this. There are plenty of people who are involved in organizing this event. Annie Lozang from the Longku Center and Jiang Chup, and then Jean-Paul and Severin from Gendun Drupa, and our precious Talia, our Laksam SPC, and all the people who put things on the website, and all the people that planned it and send out emails and set up Zoom meetings. It seems very, very easy when you all do it, but it's plenty of work. And without you organizing it and without Venerable speaking, there wouldn't be such a precious event. So thank you, everybody. And thank you also to all that joined, because ultimately we were just the 5 of us sitting and listening to you. It would be much less fun. So to all the participants who brought their energy, their questions, their thoughts to share, it makes it so special to have the whole world listening together and reflecting on love. So thank you so, so much for taking your time.
Yeah, it's kind of fun, you know, with this Zoom, you know. It's actually nice to see the people, you know, and, you know, it's still with this little window, there's some energy coming from the person, you know. You can actually feel the person being there, you know. It's kind of the manifestation of each person. So it's kind of fun to see each one, you know. Thank you so much, you know. So, yeah. So we all continue our best, we all continue our little path, and we hope we meet next year again.
Yes, thank you very much.
If I may, there is one question that came. I think I spoke long enough, so somebody actually typed up a question. If I may read it out, Venerable, maybe before we finish, would that be okay?
Sure, sure.
Great. So a person asking, during the lockdown, I had the choice to go to work in a hospital, which is not my real job, and I could have helped, and being very busy and tired, or staying at home and practicing a lot of Dharma. It was hard for me to choose the best way. What is the best way to practice love and compassion?
I think there's no one way that is better than the other, you know. One has to feel the situation oneself, you know. What in that situation, how do you feel? No, I don't think one can answer for another person. You know, each one has to feel, you know, what's more beneficial for me now is to stay at home and meditate for the sake of all being, or it's better to go out and help. You know, I think both are okay, you know, both are fine. So it's not one is better than the other. It depends. It depends. And someday you feel one is better, and someday you feel the other is better. So I think it's just both are good, you know, and it depends how you feel. Sometimes it's not one is better than the other, or everything is okay. Everything. I think it depends the motivation. You know, it depends why you do this and you do that. You know? Are you staying at home because you're lazy not to go out, or you know, or are you going out because you feel obliged to go out to help? You know, what's your motivation for either way? So I think that's the main thing. It always comes down to why we do this or that. So, and you know, someday our motivation is better than the other day. We have also to recognize our limitation. No, we just ordinary human beings, and we try our best, and sometimes trying is good enough. You know, I think we have to recognize, you know, just making a step into the right direction, even asking ourselves these questions are good, you know, it's good enough, you know. It's like, I don't know, we have this cult of the hero, you know, to be the best, to be perfect. And maybe that's put a lot of pressure on oneself. You know? So I think we have to recognize that it's going to take millions of lives, and each life we make a little step into the right direction, and that's good enough, you know. And if we live with that attitude, we have peace, you know. And if we put too much pressure on self, you know, wanting to achieve the goal, you know, it doesn't really work that way spiritually, you know. Things happen in its space and time, you know. You create the cause and condition, and then the things come in its own time, you know? And that's what you notice with all the students. That's something they realize, you know. Their life experience taught them that, you know, that things take time and things will happen in its own time, you know. So I think this pressure for result, I think I got that from, you know, Geshe Tekchok and many teachers. They say, you know, things take time and you have to accept that it's going to take time. And the best you can do is just, you know, step by step, do your best, you know, here, and things will happen. You know? Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. It was so much pleasure to see you all. You know.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, René.
Thank you, René.
Thank you.
Stay healthy and happy.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Also.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Au revoir. Au
Thank
revoir.
you.
Next year again, please.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
See you. René.
See you, Hannah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.